Hello and welcome to the Keep It Local Maine podcast. In this show, we'll be interviewing local Maine business owners and people to learn more about what they do, who and what inspires them, and how they use experiences to steer them into the future. My name is Todd Regoulinsky.
And I'm Kimberly Regoulinsky.
And we are the publishers of Keep It Local Maine, a local magazine that helps to showcase local businesses to the people in and around their communities. Thanks for tuning in, and this will be a weekly podcast that you'll be able to subscribe to on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. You can learn more about us at keepitlocalmaine.com, and you can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram through the links in the show notes. So for this first episode, we thought it would be appropriate to talk about who we are and what Keep It Local Maine is. After all, if we're going to interview other business owners, we might as well make all the mistakes interviewing each other. So we're going to ask each other some questions, and we'll see how this goes. Wish us luck. Question 1. Kimberly.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's good. So far, we're interacting. It's almost like we know each other. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. So, Kimberly, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
Well, I think the reason that, I wanted to start Keep It Local Maine was it really was to help people. It was, I love Maine. I grew up in Maine. I love everything about Maine. And it was this opportunity to really help promote local businesses and really help them to be visible in their communities and really support that. So when I get a call from a local business owner that's worked with us, has done some advertising with us, and they're just telling me, how happy they are with how it's worked out, just the people that have been able to come into their business. I mean, that really does make it all worth it for me. The why is we get to help people. We get to help promote local. And I think that's really important here in the state of Maine. I know that Maine is all about local and really supporting local people. So that really is my why.
And my why is because you tell me to.
Well, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the secret, is if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy.
Nobody happy.
So I would agree. That is also why I thought this was a great idea, because it is great for people to understand the things that are going on in their community, the businesses that are there, the people that are there, the events that are happening, because it can be real easy to people to lose sight of what's going on in their own backyard. Mm-hmm. You can get so distracted with social media and all these other things that are telling you everything that's going on around the world, and yet you can miss out on something that's happening down the street because it wasn't in your Facebook feed. Mm. So I think it's really cool that we get a chance to kind of raise the awareness of people of, hey, I didn't even know that business opened in my town, or I didn't even know that I could get that from a shop down the street, or a store down the street, or a service that's right here around where I live, instead of ordering it from somewhere else, or, just not taking advantage of that. I think that's really cool, and that's why I do it.
Right. And I think it's also about relationships. It's, a lot of our customers have become like family to us, and I think it is about those relationships that you have in the local community, and just really creating and cultivating those relationships. And so it's really nice that in Maine we have that very community feel. And I think that's really important. Well,
they're like family to you. You rarely let me out of my basement office to meet with the public and to meet with other people. So
this is true.
After I get used to the light coming in, what is that bright thing in the sky? After I get out and I'm become acclimated to the above ground world, then I'm much better. But normally I just you toss in a couple gallons worth of coffee and tell me to go.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's not really it is kind of how it works, actually. I can't really deny that. So I believe the next question is yours.
Todd, what is your biggest success to date?
Wow. I think my biggest success to date, and this is going to sound foolish, but if anyone who has been in a similar situation will understand, my biggest success to date is learning to work with my spouse and live with my spouse in the same house, day in and day out, and still be breathing, actually, is that is my biggest success to date in this business. And that's not to downplay any of the other successes we've had. That's personally for me been a huge one. And it's actually been a great growth experience. It has taught me a lot of lessons about marriage and about is what brings us together today. See, I don't get out much, so this is like, for me, this is like going out and seeing the world, even though I'm still in my office. But I think learning those skills has helped me deal with customers, because if you can learn how to work with the same person that you're then going to have dinner with and that you had coffee with in the morning, if you can make that work, that's huge. And that has been one of my great successes, because I was not good at it. I can freely admit I was terrible at it. Don't nod along. You don't have to nod that. You don't have to nod that like, oh yeah, You don't have to be that enthusiastic about your agreement. You could at least kind of play it like I had some clue. I appreciate it, though. Now you're just shrugging. That's even more helpful. All right. Well, apparently we have a little bit more work to do with this, but that has been my success. What has been your biggest success?
Well, it's funny you should ask, because it was similar to that. And I was just going to say, almost going into the 6 years now, my biggest success is the fact that we haven't set each other on fire yet. I mean, that's...
Wow. I was at least trying to put a nicer shine on it. But
our biggest success is that we've made it 6 years.
That I haven't gotten shanked walking down the hallway. Nobody saw nothing. The cat didn't see nothing. The dog didn't see nothing.
We made it this far.
That is rather incredible. And I think, and that's, we are joking, because that actually is one of the keys to being able to work with each other, is to actually be able to joke about working with each other. But it is so tough to work with family. And you had a business where you worked with your mother for years. And I mean,
it's not easy.
I was around for a lot of that. And wow. Then the fact that I would agree then to start a business with you is kind of remarkable. But it is also rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it does add a little bit more trust, because you do have to have that trust. Not that you don't trust each other when you're married anyways, but it does raise the bar in a lot of things. Yeah, and you get to celebrate the wins together, which is nice. So when you hit those milestones, and when you have those wins, and when you're able to, watch your business grow together, it's nice to be able to celebrate those wins together. I agree. And I'm not just agreeing so that I won't get into trouble. I'm agreeing because I actually agree. So the next question is, Kimberly, what's been your biggest challenge to date, and how did you overcome it? Besides working with me.
I think it's, when you're in business for yourself, and when you're self-employed, and when you're an entrepreneur, and I think a lot of you can understand this, that may be listening, all two of you at this point. Now. Wait. Be a little more optimistic than that. Well, your mother's going to listen, and I'm sure that maybe my dad's going to listen, so that's two. And I already asked Tim. So okay, he's going to listen. We've got 3, and then I think Michelle, who is actually going to be our next guest, our first real guest. Okay, so for all 5 of you that are listening to this podcast, good, you added one. That's good. That's positive. I like that. All 5 of you. So I think the biggest challenge is when you're an entrepreneur. It's a roller coaster. You live on a roller coaster. There's days where there's just highs, and then there's days when there's lows. And I think it's really, after being an entrepreneur for so many years, I think that what I've learned is you really need to surround yourself with the right people. And I think you need to really have a plan to stay motivated. You have to, whether it's listening to podcasts, one of the podcasts that I listen to, one of the people that really, help to really pushed me forward is, John Maxwell. I'm also in a group of publishers that I started meeting with, other publishers, and we just really encourage each other and just really spear each other on. But we also go through the same things. We also go through those roller coasters of emotions being an entrepreneur. You're going to do that. There's days where it's really hard. So I think it's really, as far as overcoming that challenge, it's having those things in place that when the days are hard, that are going to help you to keep going, those tools.
And I would add that it's like a roller coaster, but it's a roller coaster that nobody's tested before.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that look good on paper, and then you get on it like, ah!
Yeah, pretty much.
You're wondering if you're going to go cruising off the rails. Like, was the person in charge of the physics on this? Did they finish school? What were their grades? Because I'm looking at that loop to loop, and that doesn't look right.
No,
I don't think that looks right. I agree on the roller coaster part totally. For me, one of the biggest challenges for me, and so just to give you a little background here too, Kimberly, pardon me. Should I say Kim or Kimberly? Which?
I like to go by my birth name, which is Kimberly.
Okay. So every place else I will say Kim, but here within the confines of our podcast, I will say Kimberly. I'll have to write that down on the show notes next time because otherwise I will forget. So I agree with that. So Kimberly is in charge of all of our sales. So she is the person who you'll probably see and hear from the most. I am the graphics minion. I sit down here in my little hovel of an office, and I don't have a tan, just pasty pale white from not seeing the sunlight for days.
It's not true.
And I make things look pretty on the screen. So for me, the challenge is a little bit different because it's certainly motivation and inspiration and those things. But for me, when we have an issue, depending on the number of ads there are, it's not like working with one client. I have multiple clients that I'm managing and trying to balance all at the same time. So having up to, sometimes it's 24 to 30 different people, different ads that I'm managing and kind of moving around is probably one of the biggest challenges that I deal with just on a regular basis, because it's tough to do all of that, to make sure everybody has their own individual space, their own individual look, and that care is taken with each one of them, because I want everybody to be happy. I want every single client to walk away thinking, wow, that ad looks great. That's my goal, is that they're happy with it first. And then of course it's nice when that ad results in people then calling and going to those places. But for me, the first goal has to be the client has to love it. And getting to that point and then doing that repetitively is such a challenge, because I always want to make it better. And that can be a challenge when I think, well, 2 months ago or last month or last week, I thought that one was pretty darn good. Now I want to make it better somehow. So that can be a big challenge. And for me, overcoming that is just being better organized as far as my time management and contact and all of those aspects of the business of just being better, more disciplined about that. And I mean, Kimberly, I'm sorry. Kimberly loves to tell the story of when we were first married and I organized the kitchen.
Oh, jeez.
And what did you think?
It was the movie Sleeping with the Enemy.
And in her defense, I did put all the labels out. It might have been, but it was
frightening.
It was only because I went to some of those cupboards and I'm like, why would you even have this in the kitchen? Like, this is something that shouldn't. There's no reason why this should be in the kitchen. Like this is like a bathroom thing, or this is like something good. It would I'd find all kinds of random things. So I went through and I organized. So I'm already a fairly organized person, but dealing with that much stuff is very daunting. So I had to get even more organized and more disciplined. So that's my biggest challenge and kind of how I overcame it. Mostly it was just kick myself in the pants and, don't lose things. Mm-hmm. It's not quite as exciting or as inspiring as yours. I'm sorry. I believe the next question is yours, Kimberly.
Todd, who or what inspires you?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. For me, this is probably going to be a little bit different from you, because I'm thinking of this more of an inspiration in terms of what I do on a daily basis, which is graphic design, print design, all that. So for me, inspiration is when I'm going to the supermarket, I'm checking out all of the magazines while I'm sitting there waiting. And I'm looking at how different magazines do different covers and how different things are laid out. And if I see ads online or I see just, different things in the mail or whatever, I'm always looking at those in terms of what could I grab from this? What can I, I'm not even going to say what am I inspired? What can I outright steal in terms of a technique from this and then use later on? And it all kind of goes inside my noggin, and then it'll wind up somewhere. I'm like, oh, if I probably traced it back, it's like, oh, that's a thing I got in the mail 3 months ago. And then I figured, oh, hey, I can use that here. So that's one part of the inspiration. The other inspiration for me is in terms of overall in the business, it's just I want to make sure that we are doing the absolute best we can for our customers. Bottom line. And that kind of drives me and inspires me, because anytime I feel like, oh geez, I could do it, then I'm like, no, I want to make sure they're really happy with this. So and I want to have that same care of almost treating it like I'm working for that business owner or that business at that moment, and I want to be the best employee and caretaker of their identity, I guess.
Yeah.
What about you? What inspires Kimberly Regoulinsky?
This question, actually, I was thinking about this question a lot, and I think it's more of a who has inspired me the most. And, for me, I think absolutely, I would have to say it was my mother, because being an entrepreneur is really, I learned my work ethic watching her, as a single mom at a very young age. She had, 4 kids she was taking care of. She was working full time. She started school, and I just watched her really work hard and provide for us. And, she wasn't sitting around saying, I'm hoping someone's going to send me a lottery ticket, or, maybe I'll win the lottery. She was really working her butt off, doing the best that she could. So I think that's really what has always, that's where my inspiration started as far as work ethic, and as far as having an idea and making it come to fruition is not just sitting back and waiting, but just moving forward. And, just she really inspired me with that, being so young and having, 4 kids and working and going to school,
Well, and let's just clarify, 3 kids of her own, and then she adopted.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, she already had 3 kids, and then she takes in another kid. Like, that's a whole other level of work.
Yeah, and she was in her 20s when she did that. So, she is, she's the reason I am who I am today, just because of that example. So I think that has definitely been the first impression that I saw as what it means to work hard.
And so now I have to see. Now you went to this really wonderful, inspiring, emotional place, and I'm talking about like magazines in the checkout. So I need to go back and add an addendum to mine and say that definitely my parents as well, because my dad owned his own business for years, and my mom worked for the business, and I worked for the business.
Yeah.
And it was probably not the best health example, because my dad owned a vending business, so I was going out. I had unlimited access to Starburst and Doritos and all kinds of junk food as a kid, and it's no wonder that it took until middle of high school for my height to catch up with my weight. It was a bad scene, but it was awesome. It was awesome to watch my dad work that hard and enjoy what he was doing and enjoy providing for his family without having some of the hassles of a boss. And he was it was great to have that example for hard work.
Absolutely.
And hard work paying off.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we are coming to the home stretch of our first ever episode, and so we'll add a fun question in here, and we'll go with this one. What is your favorite place in Maine?
Well, I am a person that loves to watch the sunrise. I mean, that is one of my favorite things to do. And there's so many amazing places in Maine to do that. But one of my favorite places that I got to go to a few years ago was Cadillac Mountain. And that's where they say the sun actually rises first in the Northeast, I believe. Is up at Cadillac Mountain. So
I'll give it to you. I have done no research on this topic, so until someone points out otherwise, I'll go with that. Why not?
I believe that's the case. So anyways, a girlfriend of mine and I went up there to watch the sunrise, and it was absolutely breathtaking. If you have never had a chance to go watch the sunrise on Cadillac Mountain, I would highly, highly recommend it. Absolutely breathtaking. The views are amazing, and it just, you can't describe it. You really can't describe it. It's one of those places that definitely I could go back to again and again and again.
Right on. For me, whenever I come up against these questions, and you can ask Tim about my other podcast about how much I cheat on questions like this, because I'll always pick 2 things or 3 things. I'll never pick one. And I'm sure he's frustrated. Actually, I've been a bad influence because now he's starting to do it. I was like, oh, this is bad. I've been a horrible influence on you as a friend. Well, it kind of comes down to Old Orchard Beach and Portland. And part of that is so much of my childhood was actually, even though I grew up in New Hampshire, a lot of my childhood was tied up in Old Orchard Beach and Portland, because my dad used to bring me up to Maine Guides games at the ballpark and had season tickets for a couple of years. So I spent a lot of time coming up here, to the point that when we went on our first date and I came to pick Kimberly up, I'm driving through Old Orchard Beach and I was having flashbacks from 15, 20 years before. As I'm driving through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I remember that. I remember that. I remember that. It was the most bizarre feeling. So I have a lot of great memories of Old Orchard Beach, and I do really appreciate just the fact that it's a beach town. It just is a little beach town, and I love that. But Portland as well, the same sort of thing. Like, my dad used to take me to Maine Mariners games growing up, and I had tremendous memories of that. And I also just love Portland for being kind of that small city feel. And also just a lot of the great memories I have being in a band and playing gigs around there and going to see music at different places. And so I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say the Portland OOB area. Is that allowable?
That's I'll allow it.
Okay, because you were kind of giving me a squinty look there for a second, and I was getting really worried that I was going to get the buzzer on that one.
No, I'll allow it.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Kimberly. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome, Todd.
Okay, well, this concludes our first ever podcast. Yay! And we made it, and we're both still. I think we're friendly. Are we okay?
Yeah,
cool?
We're good.
Okay.
We're good.
So thank you for tuning in.
Yes.
Be sure to subscribe. You can do that on Podbean, Spotify, and iTunes. And if for some reason, if one of those isn't functional by the time this is posted, it will be soon. So please be patient. But thank you for tuning in. And be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find all of the issues of Keep It Local Maine, all the current issues at keepitlocalmaine.com. And I think that is about it. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, thanks for tuning in. Share it with your friends. Our goal is really to tell stories. Tell Maine business owners, tell their stories. We're really excited about the people that we're going to have on. And if there's someone that you think would be a good guest, let us know. We'd love to talk to them. And we look forward to speaking. I don't know. You got to edit that out. Edit that out.
No, we're not going to edit that out. I'm keeping that in there. That's great.
We look forward to the next one.
Yes. So thank you all very much, and have a fantastic day.